Mommy, look, there's a sad boy sitting there. Amanda turned around and froze, seeing an exact copy of her daughter. The spring sun was gently warming the courtyard where Amanda was walking with her 7-year-old daughter, Stacy. As always, the girl was pulling her mother toward the swings, her favorite spot in the yard of their new home. They had moved just a month ago, but Stacy had already settled in, made new friends, and discovered new corners of the large courtyard every day. Amanda sat on a bench, took a thermos of tea and cookies from her bag. She loved these moments, watching her daughter happily swing, kicking her legs in the air. "Mom, can I have just 5 more minutes?" Stacy asked every time it was time to go home. "Mom, look, there's a sad boy sitting there." Suddenly, Stacy pointed to a lonely figure on a distant bench. Amanda automatically looked in the indicated direction and froze. A skinny boy, about the same age as Stacy, was sitting with his arms wrapped around his knees, gazing into the distance. There was something so defenseless and familiar in his posture that Amanda's heart ached. "Let's go introduce ourselves," Stacy suggested, and without waiting for her mother's response, she headed toward the stranger. Amanda followed her daughter, feeling an inexplicable anxiety growing inside her. "Hi, I'm Stacy. What's your name?" The girl's bright voice cut through the silence of the yard. The boy flinched and looked up. Amanda barely suppressed an exclamation of surprise. The boy had amazing gray eyes with a golden ring around them, just like Stacy's. Even his facial features, his chestnut curly hair, all seemed to reflect her daughter's appearance. "I," Arnold quietly replied, shifting his wary gaze from the girl to Amanda. He wore a slightly wrinkled school uniform, and a worn-out superhero backpack hung over his shoulder. "Do you live here?" "I've never seen you before," Stacy continued, sitting down next to him on the bench. "No. I'm just walking." The boy's voice trembled with fear. He nervously tugged at the strap of his backpack, avoiding direct eye contact. Amanda sat next to him and took a packet of cookies from her bag. "Here, have some, Arnold. You're probably hungry?" The boy hesitantly took a cookie, and there was something in this simple gesture that made Amanda's heart ache even more. "And where are your parents?" she asked softly, trying not to scare the clearly frightened child. "It's getting late for walks." Arnold remained silent for a long time, looking at the cookie in his hands. I ran away," he finally whispered. "Mom wants to send me to a special orphanage. I heard her talking on the phone." Stacy immediately moved closer to the boy. "Don't cry. We'll help you, right, Mom?" Amanda looked at the two children sitting together and couldn't shake the strange feeling. They were like two peas in a pod, the same eye shape, the same gestures, even the way they smiled was identical. A troubling feeling welled up in her chest, as if something long forgotten was awakening, something she had worked hard for years to bury deep in her memory. The spring breeze carried the sound of children's laughter from the playground, and Amanda's mind was filled with anxious thoughts. Something told her that this chance meeting would change their lives forever. Looking at the children, Amanda involuntarily thought back to the past, to that sunny September day when she first met Andrew. She had been working at the university library, arranging books on the shelves while standing on a ladder. Andrew, a young physics professor, had tried to reach a book on the top shelf and accidentally bumped the ladder. Amanda gasped, losing her balance, but strong arms caught her just in time. "Sorry for my clumsiness," he said with an embarrassed smile, still holding her around the waist. "I'm Andrew, the new physics professor." His brown eyes looked so warm and sincere that Amanda immediately understood this was fate. Their romance developed quickly. Long walks through the evening city, conversations until dawn, trips to the theater. Andrew turned out to be not only a talented physicist, but also an unexpectedly romantic person. He would send a courier with her favorite pastries during the workday or set up a picnic right in the physics lab, spreading a checkered blanket between oscilloscopes. We got married a year later, a modest but very heartfelt ceremony. Amanda, every day I thank fate that I didn't keep that damn ladder, Andrew whispered during their first dance. They moved into a small apartment near the university. In the evenings, Amanda would prepare dinner while Andrew checked student papers at the kitchen table. Their daily life was simple but filled with love and mutual understanding. Every weekend they created little traditions, sometimes pancake breakfasts, sometimes visits to a new cafe, sometimes walks in the parks. Andrew, I think I've perfected the perfect soup. Amanda shouted from the kitchen, experimenting with her grandmother's recipe. Are you sure? You were sure last time too, her husband laughed, recalling their culinary adventures. The news of her pregnancy came during their third year of marriage. Amanda hesitated for a long time before taking the test, even though all the signs were clear. When she saw the 2 lines, she burst into tears of joy right in the bathroom. Andrew, I have some news for you, she said at dinner, nervously fiddling with her napkin. We're having a baby. Andrew froze with his fork halfway to his mouth, then jumped up and twirled her around the kitchen, almost knocking over their beloved ficus. At the first ultrasound, they received a surprise. Congratulations, you're having twins, the doctor smiled, pointing at the screen where 2 tiny shapes appeared. Amanda tightly squeezed her husband's hand, feeling tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. They began preparing for the arrival of the babies with special care. Andrew painted the nursery a soft yellow, assembled 2 cribs, arguing with the instructions for a long time. Can you imagine? They'll grow up together, always supporting each other, Amanda dreamily said while laying out tiny onesies. Every evening, they sat in the nursery, coming up with names. If they're boys, we'll call them Clint and Arnold, Andrew suggested. And if they're girls, Stacy and Blair, Amanda added. They didn't yet know the baby's gender, having decided to keep it a secret until the birth. Amanda's belly grew, and she often found herself talking to the babies. My dear ones, my little ones, she whispered, stroking her stomach. How much I love you and how I'm waiting for you. Every evening, Andrew would read them fairy tales, his cheek pressed against his wife's belly, and the babies, as if responding, began to kick actively. They were absolutely happy, making plans for the future, unaware of the trials awaiting them. But for now, their life was filled only with the joy of anticipation and the love that filled each day, each hour of their life together. The contractions began suddenly, in the middle of the night, at the 7th month of pregnancy. Amanda woke up with sharp pain and immediately realized something was wrong. Andrew, I think it's starting, she woke him up, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. Andrew jumped up like he'd been burned, tangled in his pajama pants, trying to call an ambulance and find the bag they'd packed in advance. At the emergency room, they were greeted by an older female doctor with kind, tired eyes. Heather, head of the obstetric pathology department, she introduced herself, quickly scanning the documents. Okay, twins, 30 weeks. Prepare the operating room immediately. Everything seemed to be happening in a fog. Amanda was wheeled down a long corridor, bright lights flashing above her head. Andrew, she managed to scream before the operating room doors closed. I'm here, darling, everything will be fine. His voice echoed back. Amanda, listen to me. Heather's calm voice cut through the veil of fear. We have premature labor, but we'll do everything possible. Right now, it's important that you stay calm. The operation lasted an eternity. Amanda heard muffled voices of doctors, the clinking of instruments, the beeping of machines. The first one came out. A voice rang out, followed by the long-awaited cry of a baby. A girl, 1,800 grams. A minute later, a second cry. A boy, 1,750 grams. Amanda managed to catch a glimpse of them, tiny, red, but so dear. They were immediately taken to the neonatal intensive care unit. They are very small, but strong, Heather reassured her. The most important thing now is their care. The first day passed in anxious waiting. Andrew was running between his wife's room and the neonatal unit. "The babies are fighting," he said, kissing Amanda on her pale forehead. "They are so beautiful, so strong." On the second morning, Heather entered the room. Something in her face made Amanda's heart drop. "Amanda, Andrew, I'm so sorry," she began, and those words forever divided life into before and after. The boy had suffered extensive brain hemorrhaging. "We did everything we could, but he didn't make it." Amanda didn't remember how she screamed, how she tried to rush to the neonatal unit. Andrew held her, barely keeping his own sobs in check. "And Stacy? Is she okay?" The question broke through her tears. "Yes, the girl is stable, she's doing well," Heather answered, her eyes welling with tears. Later, Amanda found out that night there was another premature birth in the department, this time from some important businesswoman. But at that moment, she couldn't care less. The whole world shrank to the incubator where tiny Stacy lay, their only remaining hope and joy. "Clint," Amanda whispered when Andrew asked what to put on their son's death certificate. They had chosen the name during the pregnancy. Clint and Stacy, that's what they were supposed to name their twins. Now there was only a small mound in the cemetery and an unrelenting pain in their hearts. They didn't know then that beyond the walls of their room, another drama was unfolding, one that would echo in their lives 7 years later. They didn't know that their grief would become part of someone else's game, and the truth would turn out to be completely different from what they had been told that dreadful morning. Outside the maternity ward, in her small office, Miranda was filling out another medical history. 20 years of working in the maternity ward hadn't hardened her heart. She took every case personally, especially now when her own daughter Gwen was battling a severe form of leukemia. "Doctor, the chief physician needs to see you immediately," a nurse peeked into the office. Miranda sighed, gathering her thoughts. Lately, Leslie, their chief physician, had become especially demanding and nervous. In the chief's office sat an elegant woman in an expensive suit. "Meet Ashley Mitchell," the chief physician introduced her. "The owner of a chain of beauty clinics." Ashley gave a cold nod, not even looking at Miranda. "Ashley Mitchell is having premature labor," the chief physician continued. "You will be her personal doctor. And remember, she is a very important patient." That evening, while checking her email, Miranda found a letter from a German clinic. The cost of treatment was $150,000, and the words blurred before her eyes. A simple maternity doctor didn't have that kind of money, and couldn't possibly have it. And Gwen was getting worse. "Mommy, today I sat through 2 whole lessons," her daughter boasted on the phone. Miranda wiped away a tear as she heard her daughter's heavy breathing. After chemotherapy, Gwen barely got out of bed. Ashley's labor started that night. "I don't want any children," she screamed in hysteria. "I only need my career. Do something." Miranda tried to calm her down, but inside, everything turned over at such an attitude towards the child. The next morning, the chief physician called Miranda into her office. "Sit down," Leslie's voice sounded unusually soft. "I have a business proposal for you." Ashley is willing to pay for your daughter's treatment in Germany. In exchange, she requires a small favor. Miranda's heart sank. What kind of favor? She asked, already suspecting the answer. It's only about turning a blind eye to some changes in the documentation. And keeping quiet. You understand what I mean, don't you? In the hallway, a baby was crying, one of the premature twins born that night. Miranda looked out the window, where wet snow was falling, and felt her world collapse. The choice she had to make was unbearable: professional honor or her own child's life. Think about it until evening, the chief physician's voice sounded like a verdict. But remember, such a chance comes once in a lifetime. And your Gwen may not have another chance. Miranda left the office on shaky legs. Her phone in her lab coat pocket vibrated. It was a call from the hospital where Gwen was staying. And that call was going to determine her choice. That night, Miranda couldn't sleep. The call from the hospital brought terrible news. Gwen's condition had worsened, and urgent hospitalization in Germany was required. Lying on the hard couch in the doctor's office, she replayed the conversation with the chief physician over and over in her head. At dawn, she was called to the neonatal intensive care unit. Leslie was already there, nervously pacing between the incubators. Make sure no one enters, she ordered the nurse, and locked the door. Everything will be done quickly and quietly now. The chief physician's voice sounded businesslike. Your task is to properly process the documents. Miranda stood still, unable to move, watching as Leslie approached the incubators with the twins. This boy will officially die from a brain hemorrhage, the chief physician pointed to the healthy child. And his sister will become Ashley Mitchell's son. It's simple. Miranda's throat dried up. But how? What about their mother? She will still have a daughter. It's easier to raise one child than two, Leslie cut her off. And Ashley will have a son who she can put into the best boarding school. Everyone wins. Leslie's hands moved quickly and confidently, changing the tags on the incubators. Here are the documents for the transfer to the German clinic. She handed Miranda an envelope. The plane for Gwen will be ready in 3 days. Miranda looked at the sleeping babies. They were so alike, chubby cheeks, tiny fingers. One of them would soon end up in a rich house with a mother who didn't love him, while the other would be declared dead. God, forgive me, she whispered, starting to fill out the documents with trembling hands. The next day, Ashley appeared at the maternity ward, impeccably dressed and made up. I hope you understand, no one must ever know about this. Her voice was like a steel blade. Otherwise, your daughter will suddenly lose her place in the clinic. The consequences of this decision rippled through the lives of all involved. Gwen was operated on in Germany, and she began to recover. Amanda and Andrew buried their supposedly deceased son, their marriage strained from grief. Ashley received an heir she never loved. As for Miranda, every night she woke up from nightmares, where tiny hands reached out to her through the glass of the incubator. Leslie soon retired and bought a house in Spain. You made the right choice, she told Miranda in parting. Sometimes, you have to sacrifice someone else's happiness to save your own children. But the burden of this secret turned out to be heavier than it had seemed at first. Every time she saw young mothers with their children in the hospital corridor, Miranda felt something snap inside her. She saved her daughter, but at the cost of someone else's maternal happiness. And she would have to pay this debt for the rest of her life. After the funeral of little Clint, the family's life changed forever. Amanda fell into a deep depression, sitting for hours in the nursery, sorting through the tiny clothes bought for the twins. Andrew tried to support his wife, but he was barely holding it together himself. At night, he heard her quietly crying, hugging the second baby blanket. "Amanda, we need to move on," he said, holding his wife. "We have Stacy. She needs us." Their little daughter grew up to be incredibly sensitive and understanding. At 3 years old, she already knew how to comfort her mother, climbing into her lap and wiping away tears with her tiny hands. "Mommy, don't cry. Look what I drew for you." Stacy handed over yet another drawing, where there were always 4 figures: Mom, Dad, herself, and a little boy with wings. "This is Clint. He's our angel," the girl explained. Gradually, life began to settle down. Amanda returned to her work at the library, and Andrew threw himself into his scientific research. Stacy started preschool, where she quickly became a favorite of everyone. But the pain didn't go away, it just dulled, becoming a part of their everyday life. At night, Amanda had strange dreams. In them, she saw a boy who looked remarkably like Stacy, with the same gray eyes and golden rim, the same curly chestnut hair. He was always alone, sitting on a swing or simply standing at a distance, reaching his hands out to her. Amanda woke up in tears, with a sharp feeling of loss. "Andrew, maybe we should move," she suggested one morning over breakfast. "Start fresh." In their old apartment, every corner reminded them of their loss, every baby item held the imprint of unfulfilled hopes. The decision to move wasn't easy, but they understood it was necessary. They found a new apartment in a different neighborhood, with a large green yard and a playground. Stacy was thrilled with her new room, which overlooked the park. "Mom, can I hang a photo of Clint here?" she asked, arranging her toys. The photo was an ultrasound picture showing both babies. "Of course, sweetheart. He will always be a part of our family." In the new house, it was easier to breathe. Amanda began to smile more and made new friends among the neighbors. Andrew set up a physics club for the local children, where he enthusiastically showed simple yet impressive experiments. But the dreams didn't stop. Now, the boy had grown older, the same age as Stacy. He looked sad and lost, as if he was searching for something or someone. "Mom," he would call softly, and Amanda would wake up with her heart pounding, overwhelmed by the inexplicable feeling that her son was nearby, that he was alive. "It's just dreams," Andrew reassured her. "Our boy is gone, you know that." But a mother's heart didn't want to believe it, continuing to search and wait. And one day, on a spring afternoon, when Stacy called her to see a lonely boy on the playground, Amanda understood her dreams had been prophetic. When Amanda brought Arnold home and gave him some hot tea, the boy slowly started to warm up. Sitting in the kitchen, where Stacy was offering him her favorite cookies, he began to tell his story, and with every word, Amanda's heart clenched tighter. "My mom always said I was a bother," Arnold quietly said, absent-mindedly stirring his spoon in his now cold tea. "She often goes on business trips, leaves me with nannies. But the nannies never stay long. She fires them quickly." There was an adult-like tiredness in his voice. He told them how he spent his evenings in the huge, empty apartment, where even his room felt more like a hotel room, faceless and cold. There were no children's drawings on the walls, no toys scattered around, everything had to be perfectly clean. "And yesterday, I heard my mom talking on the phone," Arnold's voice trembled. "She said she'd send me to some special school. I Googled it, it's an orphanage for difficult children. She wants to get rid of me." Stacy, who was sitting next to him, moved closer and took his hand. Surprisingly, this simple gesture seemed to give him the strength to continue. "You know what's the strangest thing? I don't even look like my mom. She has dark eyes and straight hair, and I." He looked up, and Amanda was once again struck by the unusual color of his eyes, gray with a golden rim, exactly like Stacy's. At school, they call me a foundling, Arnold continued. And when Mom gets angry, she screams that I'd be better off never having been born. That I ruined her career. Amanda listened, and inside her, a certainty grew. This boy sitting at her kitchen table was not a stranger's child. The same gestures, the same way of frowning when he's worried, even the way he holds a cup, everything reminded her of Stacy. "What about your dad?" she asked carefully. Arnold shook his head. "Mom says he died before I was born. But I think she's lying. She always lies." The doorbell rang. Andrew had returned from work. Seeing the unfamiliar boy, he froze in the kitchen doorway. "Andrew," Amanda said softly, "look at him carefully." Andrew looked at Arnold, and his face slowly changed. He saw what she saw, the striking resemblance to Stacy, the same features he saw every day in the ultrasound photo of their lost son. "Arnold will stay with us," Amanda said firmly. "At least until we figure everything out." And from the way the boy's face brightened, how tightly he held Stacy's hand, she understood that this was the right decision. In the evening, when the children were already asleep, Stacy in her room, and Arnold on the couch in the living room, Amanda and Andrew sat in the kitchen, trying to make sense of what was happening. The cup of tea had long since gone cold, but no one noticed. "Andrew, you see it too, don't you?" Amanda asked quietly, pulling an old photo album from the cupboard. "Look at these pictures of Stacy, they're like two peas in a pod." She spread the photos on the table. Here Stacy is smiling, showing her lost tooth. Here she's frowning over her homework. And every facial expression, every gesture, seemed to be reflected in Arnold. Those eyes, Andrew. Gray with a golden ring. So rare, so special. Do you remember how the doctors were amazed when Stacy was born? They said they'd never seen anything like it. Andrew was silent, looking at the photos. His hands trembled slightly when he picked up the ultrasound picture of their twins. "Amanda, you understand this is impossible. Clint died. We buried him. But what if not?" Amanda stood up and began walking around the kitchen. "Do you remember, that night in the hospital, there were other premature births too, from some rich woman? And this is Ashley, Arnold's mother. She owns a network of clinics. This can't be a coincidence." "Amanda, stop." Andrew came up to his wife and put his arms around her shoulders. "I understand how much you want to believe, but we can't just take someone else's child based on resemblance and feelings. But we can't send him back either." Amanda hotly protested. "Did you hear what she's planning to do? Send him to an orphanage for troubled children. Him, so kind, so vulnerable." At that moment, a soft sob came from the living room. Amanda hurried there and saw Arnold curled up on the couch. He was crying in his sleep. "Shoo, it's okay," she whispered, sitting next to him and gently stroking his head. The boy quieted down, instinctively pressing into her hand as if recognizing a mother's warmth. "You know, Andrew," she said softly to her returning husband, "maybe this is madness. Maybe I'm just seeing what I want to see. But I can't shake the feeling that this boy is ours. That he's always been ours." Andrew looked at the sleeping child, at his wife, and in his eyes was the same struggle between reason and heart. "Okay," he finally said, "let's try to figure this out. But carefully, without giving false hopes to either ourselves or the children." "Thank you," Amanda whispered, gripping her husband's hand tightly. At that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, hope. Hope that sometimes miracles happen, that a mother's heart can't be wrong, and that, perhaps, their broken family might finally become whole again. A week passed since Arnold came into their home. Amanda stood in the supermarket by the vegetable shelf, wondering what to make for dinner. Stacy loved baked vegetables, and Arnold, as it turned out, adored mashed potatoes. "Excuse me," a woman's voice sounded from behind. Amanda turned around and met the gaze of an older woman in glasses. There was something familiar about her face, but Amanda couldn't remember where they had met before. "Excuse me, you gave birth at the 15th Maternity Hospital? 7 years ago?" The woman nervously fiddled with the handle of her basket. "Twins?" Amanda felt the ground slip out from under her. "Yes." "And you?" "Miranda. I was the attending physician that night," the woman said quietly, looking around. "I saw you recently in the yard. With the boy." Amanda's heart began to beat faster. "Do you know something?" She grabbed Miranda's hand. "Please, if you know anything." "Not here." Miranda looked around again. "Let's go outside." They sat on a bench in a small park near the store. Miranda was silent for a long time, as though gathering her thoughts. "That boy, he's living with you now?" Finally, she asked. Amanda nodded. "His name is Arnold. He ran away from his mother, who wanted to send him to an orphanage." "From Ashley Mitchell?" Miranda said the name almost in a whisper. "I thought so. You know, something happened that night at the maternity hospital. Something terrible." Miranda fell silent, looking at the children playing nearby. "I should have told you earlier. But my daughter, she would have died without treatment. And they offered money, a lot of money." "What are you talking about?" Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. "Your son didn't die that night." Miranda's words fell like stones. "There was a switch. Ashley got a healthy boy, and you were lied to about his death." Amanda froze, unable to utter a word. All the pieces of the puzzle, all the strange coincidences suddenly came together into one picture. "I can't stay silent anymore." Miranda took a battered envelope from her bag. "Here are copies of documents that can prove it. Medical history, test results. I've kept them all these years." "Why?" Amanda could barely squeeze out the words. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I saw his eyes," Miranda replied quietly. "The same as your daughter's. And I realized that fate is giving us a chance to correct what was done wrong." They sat in silence as the sun slowly set behind the rooftops. In Amanda's mind, a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions swirled. Her mother's heart had not been mistaken. Arnold really was her son, her lost Clint. "What should I do now?" she asked, gripping the envelope with the documents tightly. "Fight," Miranda replied firmly. "I'll help you. It's time to restore justice." Amanda met Miranda in a small cafe on the outskirts of the city that evening. The seats at the far table were chosen on purpose. The conversation was going to be difficult, not for the ears of outsiders. "I have to tell you everything from the beginning." Miranda wrapped her hands around the cup of cold coffee. "That night, I was on duty in the department. My daughter was seriously ill, leukemia in its final stage. The only chance was treatment in Germany, but there was no money at all." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Ashley Mitchell came to the maternity hospital almost at the same time as you. Rich, influential, but she didn't want the child. She said the pregnancy would ruin her career, her plans. The chief doctor, Leslie, called me to her office. She said there was a way to solve both problems, mine and Ashley's. You just needed to just switch the children." Amanda listened, clenching her fists so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "They took advantage of the fact that you gave birth to twins. The plan was simple: declare one dead, but in reality, give it to Ashley. She got a healthy boy, one that could be sent to a private school. I got money for my daughter's treatment, and Leslie got a generous reward and a spot on the board of directors at Mitchell's clinics. And what about us? What did we get? Amanda's voice trembled with suppressed emotions. You got lies and 7 years of pain, Miranda replied quietly. I saw you crying over the empty little coffin. Every night since then, it's been in front of my eyes. She took an old medical chart from her bag. Here are the birth details, blood type, footprints, all the measurements. They match Arnold's data. I checked. Even Ashley gave him a similar name, as if mocking you. Why did you stay silent all these years? Amanda fixed her gaze on her companion. Fear, Miranda answered simply. First, for my daughter. Ashley made it clear that if I spoke, the treatment would stop. Then, when Gwen recovered, fear of my own guilt. But when I saw Arnold with your Stacy, I knew I couldn't live with this burden any longer. She told Amanda how Ashley treated the child, without love, as a nuisance. How the nannies would change because they couldn't withstand the coldness of the mistress of the house. How the boy grew up lonely and unhappy in the huge empty apartment. And now she wants to get rid of him for good, Miranda finished. She wants to send him to a closed orphanage so that he doesn't get in the way of her new marriage. Amanda sat silently, digesting what she had just heard. A storm of emotions raged inside her, anger toward those who had broken their lives, pain over the lost years, fear for the future. What should we do now? She finally asked. We have evidence. We have medical documents, test results, Miranda replied. We can do a DNA test. It will confirm everything. I'm ready to testify and tell the whole truth in court. Do you realize that you could be held accountable? I understand, Miranda nodded. But I am tired of running away from the truth. It's time to make things right, no matter the cost. Amanda stood up, swaying as her legs barely held her. I have to tell my husband. We will fight. For our son, for justice. I will help you, Miranda also stood up. It's my duty to you and to my conscience. They left the cafe into the damp spring evening. Ahead of them was a long path filled with struggle and trials. But now they had the truth, and that gave them strength. Amanda and Andrew wasted no time. With all the documents provided by Miranda, they turned to an experienced lawyer who specialized in family matters. At the same time, they ordered an independent genetic test, which confirmed their suspicions Arnold was indeed their biological son. We need to act quickly, said the lawyer as he went through the papers. But carefully. Ashley Mitchell is a powerful person, and she has connections in high circles. Unexpectedly, Ashley herself found them. She showed up at their door unannounced, elegant and cold like Arctic ice. Where is my son? She demanded, trying to look inside the apartment. You mean our son? Amanda replied firmly, blocking the doorway. We know the truth, Ashley. We know about the switch at the maternity hospital. For a moment, Ashley's face contorted. Nonsense. You have no proof. And if you don't return Arnold to me, I'll file a kidnapping report. We have all the evidence, Andrew intervened. Including Miranda's confession and the DNA test results. Ah, that pathetic doctor spoke, Ashley sneered. So what? Who will believe a woman who was part of the crime? And the expert report can be contested. She pulled out her phone. I'm giving you until tomorrow. Either you return the boy, or... She paused. You have a daughter. It would be a shame if Child Protective Services took an interest in her living conditions. At that moment, Arnold appeared in the doorway of the nursery. Seeing Ashley, he turned pale and recoiled. "Don't give me to her," he whispered. "Please." "Arnold, pack your things immediately," Ashley ordered, but the boy had already disappeared deeper into the apartment. "Get out," Amanda spat. "Or I'll call the police." "You'll regret this," Ashley threw back over her shoulder, turning on her heels. "You'll regret this a lot." An hour later, they were at the police station, filing a report about the crime that had taken place 7 years ago. "Here are all the documents." Amanda placed the folder on the investigator's desk. The conclusion of the genetic examination, Miranda's testimony, medical records. "This is serious," the investigator said thoughtfully, flipping through the papers. "Child substitution, document forgery, extortion. It won't be easy, but we'll begin the investigation." As they left the department, Amanda and Andrew held hands tightly. They knew this was just the beginning of the fight. Ahead of them lay court hearings, investigations, and possibly more threats. But now they were ready for anything. For their son, for justice, for their family to finally be whole. "We'll make it," Andrew whispered, hugging his wife. "Now the truth is on our side." In the evening, when the children had already gone to bed, Amanda and Andrew held a family council. On the kitchen table lay the documents, the results of the examination, and cups of strong tea. The conversation ahead would not be easy. "We need to tell the children the truth," Amanda began, squeezing her husband's hand. "Especially Stacy. She already feels something important is happening." "I noticed how she takes care of Arnold," Andrew nodded. "You know, yesterday she gave him her favorite teddy bear. She said he needed it more." At that moment, sleepily, Stacy appeared in the kitchen doorway, wearing a pajama with kittens. "Mom, Dad, I can't fall asleep. Can I sit with you?" Amanda and Andrew exchanged glances. "Of course, sweetheart. Come sit. We were just going to talk to you about something important." Stacy climbed onto a chair, pulling her knees to her chest, just like Arnold did. "This is about why Arnold looks so much like me." Amanda smiled softly. Their daughter had always been very perceptive. "Yes, dear. Do you remember when we told you about your twin brother? About how he died right after birth?" Stacy nodded. "Clint, I always felt like he was somewhere out there. I just didn't know where." "Well, it turns out he didn't die," Amanda continued gently. "Bad people tricked us and gave him to another family. And this boy, Arnold, is actually your brother Clint." Stacy froze, her eyes wide. "Really? Arnold is my real brother. I knew it. I could always feel he was family." She jumped off the chair, ready to run and wake Arnold, but Andrew gently stopped her. "Wait, sweetheart. It's night now, don't wake him up. And also, we're facing a tough fight to bring him back into our family. That mean lady who came, she doesn't want to give him back?" Stacy frowned. "But he's ours. She doesn't even love him." "We'll fight," Amanda said firmly. "But we need your help. You need to support your brother, be there for him. He's really scared and struggling right now." "I'll protect him," Stacy said resolutely. "I've always dreamed of having a brother. And now he's found." Andrew pulled his daughter close, hugging her. "We'll all protect him. We're together again now, the whole family." They sat on the kitchen for a long time, making plans for the future. Stacy suggested rearranging her room so there'd be enough space for two. Amanda and Andrew discussed upcoming meetings with lawyers and investigators. And in the next room, Arnold slept soundly, for the first time in a long while, feeling safe. In his sleep, he smiled, as if he already knew he had finally found his true home and his real family. The events developed rapidly. As promised, Ashley used all her connections. The very next day, representatives from the Child Protection Agency came to their home, a young woman with a stern face and an elderly man with a worn briefcase. "There's been a report of illegal detention of a child," the woman said coldly, inspecting the apartment with a critical gaze, "and of unsuitable living conditions for minors." But they were in for a surprise. The apartment gleamed with cleanliness. The children's room was perfectly organized, with fresh fruit and homemade pastries on the table. And most importantly, the children were happy, intently doing their homework together. "I don't want to go back to her," Arnold firmly declared to the social worker. "This is my real family. Look, Stacy and I are twins." The story began to leak into the media. First, a small mention in the local newspaper, then a report on regional television. "Baby switch at the maternity hospital, family fights to return stolen son." Such headlines appeared more and more often. Ashley tried to resist. Her lawyers claimed that all the documents were forged, that Miranda was giving false testimony out of revenge. "These are absurd accusations," she said in an interview with a glossy magazine. But the public sided with Amanda and Andrew. People started coming to their house, offering help and support. Neighbors organized patrols when suspicious cars appeared near the entrance. "We won't let anyone hurt these children," said Catherine, the building's senior resident, a former teacher. "It's enough that these little ones have already been through so much." The turning point came with the appointment of a comprehensive medical examination. Leading specialists from the Genetics Institute confirmed that Arnold and Stacy were undoubtedly twins. Moreover, other evidence emerged. In the maternity hospital's archives, original documents were found with erased dates and corrected entries. Ashley made one last desperate attempt. She arrived at Amanda and Andrew's house in a black luxury car. "Name your price," she offered. "Any amount. Just drop this case. Do you really think a mother's love can be bought?" Amanda quietly asked. "Leave. Just leave and don't come back." That evening, the whole family sat in the living room. Stacy showed Arnold old photos, telling family stories. The boy listened, leaning against his sister, a shy smile appearing on his face. "You know," Andrew said to his wife, watching the children, "no matter what the results of all these tests are, it's enough to just look at them together. Everything becomes clear right away." Amanda nodded, wiping away a tear. The trial was still ahead, but she already knew they would win. Because the truth and love are always stronger than lies and money. The trial began at the end of spring. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, public figures, and just concerned people came to support the family in their fight for justice. Ashley sat on the opposite side, surrounded by a team of expensive lawyers. She looked impeccable, in a strict suit, with a perfect hairstyle, but her eyes betrayed her nervousness. The first to testify was Miranda. Her words were shaky, but they were clear and confident. "Yes, I admit my guilt in assisting the child swap." Leslie, the head doctor at the maternity hospital, proposed this plan. "Ashley Mitchell paid for my daughter's surgery in Germany in exchange for my silence." The next surprise was the appearance of the former head doctor. Leslie had aged, but still carried herself arrogantly. "I do not admit any accusations," she declared. All the documents were filled out correctly. But then the prosecutor presented the original medical records found in the archives, with erased dates and corrections. Red blotches appeared on Leslie's face. Then the prosecutor pulled out another file. Look at the handwriting analysis results. All the corrections were made by your hand. The head doctor broke down. Yes, it was my idea, she confessed. Ashley offered a lot of money and a position on the board of directors of her clinics. I decided that one more or one less child didn't matter. They still had a daughter. A wave of outrage rose in the courtroom. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order. The decisive evidence was the results of the genetic examination. The probability that Arnold is the biological son of Amanda and Andrew, as well as Stacy's twin brother, is 99.99%, the expert read aloud. For the first time during the whole trial, Ashley lost her composure. What difference does it make whose biological son he is? She shouted. I raised him. I spent so much money on him. Money, yes, Amanda said quietly as she stood up. But where was your love? Why did he run away from you? Why did you want to send him to an orphanage? The judge's deliberation lasted for several hours. Finally, the long-awaited decision was read out. The court ruled that the children had been unlawfully swapped, restored Amanda and Andrew's parental rights, and called for criminal charges to be filed against everyone involved in the crime. Stacy, sitting next to her brother, tightly squeezed his hand. Everything will be okay now, she whispered. Arnold nodded, unable to hide his tears of joy. As they left the courtroom, Ashley tried to approach the boy one last time. Arnold, I'm still your... She started, but he interrupted her. No. You're nobody to me. I have a real mom. And a dad. And a sister. Outside, a crowd of supporters awaited them. Some threw flowers, some chanted, "Justice has prevailed," while others simply clapped. Let's go home, Andrew said, embracing his entire family. Now, truly, home. And they walked together, holding hands tightly, ready to begin a new chapter of their lives. A chapter in which truth defeated lies, and love proved stronger than money and power. The next morning, after the trial, Arnold woke up in his new room. A beam of sunlight played on the wall where his drawings hung next to his sister's, and on the shelf, plush toys, gifts from the whole family, looked down at him. Good morning, son, Amanda said, peeking into the room with a smile. The simple word son still brought tears of joy to her eyes. Pancakes for breakfast? At breakfast, Stacy told her brother about the family traditions. On Sundays, we always go to the park, and then Dad makes his special pizza. And on birthdays, Mom bakes a special raspberry cake. Will we now have one birthday together? Arnold asked, and everyone laughed at that simple but important question. Andrew took some time off work to spend more time with the family. Together, they arranged the kids' room, now furnished with 2 beds and 2 desks, and a large world map appeared on the wall, where the children marked places they wanted to visit together. Stacy became Arnold's best guide into the world of family life. She showed him old photo albums, told stories from their early childhood, and shared her toys and secrets. You know, I always felt you were out there, she confessed one day. Arnold gradually thawed, learning to trust and accept love. For the first while, he still flinched at loud noises and apologized for every little thing, but the warmth of the family worked its magic. Mom, can I hug you? He asked for the first time a week later, and Amanda burst into tears of happiness, holding her son tightly. New traditions began to emerge. Now, every night before bed, Andrew read stories to both children. On weekends, they all cooked together. Stacy was in charge of the salads, while Arnold turned out to be a talented helper in baking cookies. Look what I found! Stacy exclaimed one evening, dragging an old board game over. "Dad, remember we used to play this when I was sick?" And now every Friday evening, they held family game tournaments. Arnold started attending the same school as Stacy. At first, he was shy and kept to himself, but his sister was always by his side, introducing him to friends and helping him fit in with the group. "This is my brother, we're twins," she proudly told everyone. Gradually, the childhood trauma receded. Arnold learned to laugh loudly and wholeheartedly, stopped hiding his drawings, and began to share his dreams and plans. One day, he admitted, "You know, I always felt there was a real family out there that loved me." Amanda and Andrew, every evening as they tucked the children into bed, thanked fate for the triumph of justice, for the fact that their family had finally become complete. Now, their home was always filled with the sound of children's laughter, and love and warmth filled every corner, healing old wounds and creating new, happy memories. A year had passed since that memorable court hearing. In the park near their house, where this amazing story had once begun, Amanda watched her children. Stacy and Arnold were swinging on the swings, competing to see who could fly higher, their laughter echoing across the playground. "Can you believe how much has changed in just a year?" Andrew hugged his wife around the shoulders. Indeed, a lot has changed. Arnold had blossomed from a frightened, lonely boy into a cheerful, confident child. He and Stacy had become not just brother and sister, but best friends, understanding each other with just a glance. Fate had scattered all the people involved in that story along different paths. Ashley, having lost her reputation and most of her business, left the country. Before she left, she unexpectedly sent a letter, "Forgive me. I never knew how to love, but now I understand how wrong I was." Leslie received a suspended sentence, considering her age and admission of guilt. They say she took up charity work, helping orphanages, perhaps trying to atone for her sins. Miranda occasionally visited them. Her daughter Gwen had fully recovered, graduated from school with honors, and entered medical school. "I want to help children," she said. "Mom, Dad, look what we found." Arnold ran up to his parents, holding an old kite in his hands. "Can we try to fly it?" "Of course, son," Andrew smiled. "Let me show you how it's done." Watching her husband teach the children how to fly the kite, Amanda thought about how much they had all learned over the past year, about the power of a mother's love that can break through any barrier, about the fact that the truth, even the bitterest, is better than the most beautiful lie, and about forgiveness, which frees not only the forgiven but also the one who forgives. "You know, Mom," Stacy said one day, "I think Clint was still our angel. He brought Arnold back home." And in those simple words, there was wisdom. Sometimes you have to go through pain and trials to find true happiness. Their family had gone through that journey and had only grown stronger. In the evening, as she tucked the children into bed, Amanda, as usual, sat on the edge of the bed. "Mom, tell us the story again about how we found each other," Arnold asked. It had become their favorite family story, the one about how love and belief in miracles helped reunite a broken family. Outside the window, the trees rustled with leaves, stars lit up the sky, and life went on, now full, real, and happy. Because nothing is stronger than a parent's love and a child's belief in miracles.